The one-arm opposite side rotational overhead press. A very lengthy title for a movement, but we're not going to try and just call it something like a Superman reach, because how are you going to know what that really is? So the movements are going to be labeled the way in which your body's going to move. The one-arm opposite side rotational overhead press is exactly that. You're going to take one arm, rotate toward the opposite side while you're overhead pressing your arm. In this case, I'm just using my arm. 10 to 15 pound weight is built in here. Now, if I want to add a kettlebell or a dumbbell or band or cable system, that's anyone's prerogative. Just make sure the movement is clean, as well as make sure that you assess before the movement, perform it, and then reassess. That'll help you to understand how much resistance you should be using. If you find that the weight of your arm is such that it is enough resistance, great. If you find that you need to add more, have at it. You're the one that's going to know that better than anyone else, especially your autonomic nervous system is going to know better than anyone else. Now, we can encourage an easier way of doing this rotation by taking the same leg forward. That encourages my pelvis to rotate to the right, so that I'm already started to rotate in the opposite direction. When using my left arm and rotating right, it's a lot easier. Now I can come across and rotate up. If I brought my feet parallel, well, that pulls my pelvis to a more neutral or central position. So it's going to require a little bit more effort to rotate my body around to that side and reach on up. Ultimately, if I wanted the most resistance, I could have my right leg forward to rotate my pelvis across to the left. So it's going to require even more effort to rotate over the pelvis that's going in the opposite direction and then coming up and over. Now, I make that voice because I've actually engaged a lot of pressure through my abdominal region with the muscles here as they pulled me around in that rotational place. I'm not saying that you should make that voice, but it's just showing you that it shouldn't be just the shoulder. It's the whole body that's doing this action. I'm just initiating it from my hand, and I am actually creating torsion or rotation all the way down into my feet. So as I rotate across the opposite side, one foot is collapsing into the arch, which we call pronation, while the other one, the arches are lifting up in supination. So I say this because if you have one foot that is overly pronated and you want to try and encourage supination, this might be a good exercise. It could also be a great exercise if you have trouble rotating the pelvis or the rib cage, depending upon the stance you take. So we can use a shoulder exercise, if you want to call it that, to affect the entire body. But in truth, where does the shoulder begin and end? If we look at an anatomy chart, it's going to tell us, well, it's the humerus coming up and attaching to the collarbone and the clavicle, as well as in contact with the scapula, shoulder blade, and muscles surrounding it to form what we call a shoulder. It's what we've been told over and over. But it doesn't stop there. If my shoulder moves forward, it creates a whole chain reaction through my body. So is it really a shoulder or just part of the whole integrative unit? Try this movement out, but be sure to assess and reassess before and after to make sure that this is what you need.